Hi, Stampers. It's Lisa. I'm here with today's live. It's actually a Friday, and I'm a complete mess. I've been kind of in and out of the doctors trying to figure out what's going on with my arm. Something related to that fall way back in February. Oops. So let's see if I can get the right screen layout here so I can show you my card. And hide the comments. This is what we're making today. It's a pillar pop-up card, and it's kind of a window box frame, but it's up on little pillars and has an easel on the back. I did get a call back from the massage therapist, so I do have a massage for tomorrow, but my arm, like the whole thing's in lockup, wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this really bad pain. It's weird. I'm starting with a back piece of cardstock. So our main layer is going to be our 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Oh, let me just switch you. So I've got a garden green layer here that is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. That's going to be the base we're going to work off of. I'm going to put a layer over that that's just a teensy bit smaller. So this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Oh, got some California people on there. I'm from Northern California originally, up in Petaluma. Okay, and then I have the back easel. So this one is 2 1/4 by 8 1/2, scored at 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 4 1/4, and then 7 1/2. So that'll be this piece on the back. Then this piece here is 2 3/4 by 4. So that's going to be our message spot on the back. And then for our frames, I use the stitch rectangle frames. I love these things. I'm always saying how much I love basic shapes. And this has a whole bunch of them. And it's on the last chance list. So it's kind of a bummer that they're getting rid of them. Last I looked, they were actually on sale. So they were a really good price, but on their way out. And what I did with them is I took some of the rectangles. I knew I wanted my outside, my frame to be about this big on the front. And then I wanted the layer to go in it. Oof, oof. So what I'm doing here is layering them up. And this one and this one are the green. And then this is the white that's going to sit in the middle. And I skipped one here because they're always every 1/4 inch. And I wanted a 1/2 inch to be the border in here. So I skipped one of them. So I used these two for the white and these two for the green. Is that making sense? So I'm using the very smallest and the very largest of my little grouping here to be the green, and then the two in the middle are the white layer. Does that make sense? So that's this one and that's this one. Then I have the pillar parts that are going to go on the back or in the front. These are on the back of the frame, actually. It's these little pieces here. And because I was going with this measurement, these are 3 1/4 tall, so that they'll just fit onto there. And then I scored every 1/2 inch. And then I wanted a little extra to hook it together because the 4 these 4 pieces are going to roll together, and that's going to be my square. But I needed a little flap that's going to adhere them together. But I wanted to give a little bit of room. So instead of that being a whole 1/2 inch, it's 3/8. So I have a little bit of forgiveness in there. And then you need 2 of those, one for either side. Of course, we want to burnish them really well. Oh, man, my arm hurts. Okay. And then because it's a moving part, I'm going to put it together with tear and tape because that's much stronger than standard adhesives. And I'm going to put that on that little 3/8 inch strip. Okay. Okay. Now, when I'm doing anything that I want to be really square, I adhere it together flat. So I'm going to flatten it out with my tear and tape side up. And then I'm going to take off the piece and go down like that. So now it's going to be flat both directions because we want the card to be able to flatten out to go into the envelope. Okay. Oof. Okay, and then this is going to get tear and tape on the top here. So that we can do our easel. All right, so I'm going to hold this together and then fold this down so that I am getting it into, it's not sticking out on either side. And I've got my little M fold in the bottom. So that's going to be my easel. So that'll just adhere to the card. And it's okay, I have this extra. See, there's a line there. I'm just going to make that part touch the back of our card so it'll be hidden. And then we have some stamping to do. Now I chose to use our Rhino Ready on the inside because I thought that these 2 bundles go together really well. They were both an online exclusive. They came out at the same time, but they're not necessarily, made to go together, but they're very similar. Here is our Rhino. And here is our tropical leaf. Now the Ready Rhino came with dies. I believe they're sold out, but I'm not using the dies for this one. I'm just using the cute little animals. And then this one has a punch. So when we're punching out for the front, we'll be using this. But see how they're kind of both kind of tropical. I don't know what I want to say. I'm sorry. My arm is so sore. Say a prayer that my arm gets better or the doctor finds some pain relief that will help because he gave me muscle relaxers yesterday and steroids and they're not touching it. So I've got to call into the nurse requesting something different. In the meantime, it's just driving me bonkers. Okay, let's do some stamping. Now for the front of the card, it's just going to be leaves as my outside border. And I did those in 2 different colors. I did garden green and old olive. And last time, on Monday, I used the lines inside the leaf. For this card here, I use the inner lines. I'm not using them this time, but they are there. There's 2 different sizes. I am using the 2 sizes, and I'm using a few of the sentiments. So on the back, I have thanks so much. Oops. Okay. I'm going to do that in garden green, which is the color of our base. And I'm doing it on some scrap paper because when I do the leaves, I want the leaves to hang off. Oof. And on something like this, on the frame, there isn't enough room to take the whole leaf. So I needed the scrap paper under there to catch the excess. And I'm just alternating between the 2 colors and the 2 sizes, and then filling in around on our frame. And then I'm going to do another frame around this one. So I'm not going all the way in because I want room to stamp my rhino. But that was the big leaf in old olive. Oh, and it looks like I have a little piece of paper on it. So that's what this is here. I picked up a piece of paper along the way. Okay, then I'm going to use the littler leaf to fill in. Okay, and then that is going to get mounted onto this. So that's going to be like, it's kind of like a frame. You can see where I'm getting that. And then this frame is going to go over the top of it. So that's why they didn't need to go all the way in. And I needed that middle part good and open so that we have room to see the rhino. And I went ahead and I stamped him in gray granite. I'm going to plop him right in the middle. Oh, and we are going to do a drawing. I'm going to go through and pick people who have been commenting and sharing and sending out my videos because we hit over 5,000 subscribers. That was super exciting. That happened while I was gone over the weekend. Some of you heard we went down to New Mexico for a funeral. And so that was kind of fun to have that happen while we were gone. So now I'm going to do a drawing to thank you guys for subscribing to my channel and for being here and sharing me with your friends. Okay, this is I stamped on masking paper. Stampin' Up! Sells masking paper that will cover up the image to allow us to put the grass back there and make it look like he is in the grass. So we're going to cover up the area we've already stamped. And I do recommend that when you first use the masking paper, you stamp it and cut it out like I did here, and then stick it to your skin or stick it to your clothing, something to get it a little less sticky, because we want it to be like a Post-it note stickiness so that it does not pull off any of the cardstock when you go to remove it. We want it to be just Post-it note-ish. Okay, then I'm going to come in with some green grass and just run that under him. And then if you wanted to, you could sponge a little blue over the top, and then that could act as sky. Again, I'm not worrying about this being real fancy because this is going to cover the bulk of it up. But you can see when we come back and remove, see how his feet are now, it looks like he's in front of or on top of the grass. That's what we were going for, and that's why we used the masking paper. I'm going to go ahead and color him real quick in gray granite. And then we've got the little birdie on top. We'll do him in balmy blue. And again, with my arm hurting, this is going to be a little funky. I apologize. All of our Stampin' Blends come in 2 packs. There's a light and a dark. And these are alcohol-based markers. And we stamp in dye-based ink and then color with alcohol, because inks will blend with the same medium. And so we don't want our ink to be the same medium because we don't want it to blend into it. You know what I mean? So if you're stamping in dye-based ink, you want to use alcohol-based markers. If you're stamping in alcohol-based ink, which would be our StazOn, then you can use water-based or dye-based inks and have the stamping part not smear. So you always want to use the opposite. I wanted to show you that we do have markers that are the dye-based ink. These are good for coloring. They're also good for applying ink to your image. Like if this was a solid color image, you know, the rubber part was solid, we could use the brush tip end to apply the ink to our stamp and then stamp it. Or it had the little tiny end that we used for writing. And these had a tendency to dry out. They kind of did. And so they've kind of redesigned them. They decided to make them, the barrel part is a little longer. So these ones are not refillable. Our original ones were. They're saying they are no longer refillable, but the barrel is a little longer, so it holds a little more ink. And they've improved the brush tip end. So this brush tip is much stronger and a better quality than this one. And then they've left the whole thing black instead of having the colored ends to it. But on this end, it's a bullet tip instead of the writing tip. If I can get it to focus. There we go. So these are the new dye-based markers that are in our new annual catalog. Have you guys started to get your new annual catalogs? I have gotten mine in. Some of them are out in the mail. Some people I'm waiting for them to verify an address with me. because they're kind of expensive to mail and I don't want them going to the wrong spot. I want to make sure you get the catalog. So if you have not gotten your catalog yet, or there's some chance I may have your address a little wonky, please let me know that you are still interested in the catalog and what address you want it sent to, and I will make sure it gets popped in the mail. Because I should have just used seal. But I'm using liquid because it's the little tiny border, and the liquid glue gives me time to move it around before it totally grabs, so that I can make sure I have my skinny border all the way around the outside edge. And this one's going to go on here. Oh, I need some scrap, because that's what I did on the outside is I put 2 leaves here, and then that one. Oh, I didn't color my rhino. Oop. So I did the outside edge in a dark, and then I'm blending the light right over the top of it. And then where the 2 colors meet, I'm drawing little circles that will help blend it. It's basically getting it really saturated so that the 2 inks bleed together. Normally, ink blending is not something we want to happen, but when we're coloring with them, we do. And I'm kind of leaving them super light in the middle just for some accent. Let's give them some pink toes. There we go. Yeah, the new catalog's pretty awesome. I'm excited. Okay, now this is where our pillars are going to come in. And I'm going to take the side that has the seam. I always try to bury the seam. So that's where I'm going to put our Terran tape to adhere. Ooh. I'm going to have it on the opposite side as well, because one's going to touch the back of the card and one's going to touch the front. If you have a really long wish list, that's always a good excuse to consider joining Stampin' Up, because most of our demonstrators don't actually teach and hold parties and do all of that. They just sign up for the discount and buy for themselves. And anytime you're going to buy over $150 worth of stuff, it's cheaper to just buy the starter kit, because our starter kits are buy whatever you want. You pick what you want. So you would pay $99. You can get $125 worth of stuff, and then it's going to ship to you for free. So you save that $25 plus you save the cost of the shipping. And then you have a 20% discount for at least 3 months, because they don't start counting minimums until you have done your first full quarter. So because we're in the middle of a quarter right now, this quarter won't end until June 30th. So your first full quarter wouldn't be until July, August, September. So you wouldn't have to hit your minimum till the end of September. And for that whole time, you would have your 20% discount. If you bought the minimum, your discount continues. If you didn't buy the minimum, then you just go back to being a customer. But once you become creative royalty, you want to stay there, because that's our team name. So now I want to just center this right down over the top, and I'm keeping the pillars open so that the sticky side is straight down. And then it's best if you stand up and look down from the top, which I'm not able to do here, but you would be able to center it exactly where you want it. And then you're going to press it down. And there is our standing frame. Now all we need is the front decorations. So in looking at our punch, we know the paper is going to feed in this direction. So we know that the fat part of the leaf should be at the bottom. That will allow us to use this as the top handle. So let's come in with one of each. Let's do a large leaf and garden green. Oop. And then we're going to wash that off and do a second leaf in Old Olive. Digging for a piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to punch out another leaf just out of green cardstock. And most of the time I stamp on the white, and so I often forget that we can stamp on color, really. Even for our sentiments. I know sometimes I'll do it as an accent, but it can be the main stamping. You can either emboss it, or you can stamp it in a darker color, or even of the same color. So I'm going to take our hello. I'm going to ink that up. Ooh. I'm going to stamp that right in there. Okay, now when putting the leaves down, I want to make sure that they clear the top, because if we want this to go into an envelope, we don't want it hanging over an edge. And then I'm also being sure to not have any sticky on the leaf behind it where it's going to touch. I want all the sticky to catch on the frame, not behind it, so that it doesn't glue itself shut. Okay, and then on the back, we just adhere our our sentiment panel. So I'm going to push that over there. And then we're going to adhere our easel. And I'm going to put it almost to the bottom, but not quite, because I want it to lean backwards just a little bit, not much, but just enough that we don't see the easel and it doesn't tip over. But there we go. There is our pillar easel card using the Tropical Leaf bundle from Stampin' Up. As always, these are Stampin' Up bundles and can be purchased in my online store. And these are online exclusives, meaning they are not printed in a catalog anywhere. They are only available online. So hopefully you like that. And hopefully you come back on Monday when hopefully I'm feeling better. My arm isn't cramping like crazy. And we will make another card out of a different bundle from Stampin' Up. So thanks for joining me. Bye.